If you're watching this, that means the government shutdown hasn't killed us all.
Yay!
For those of you joining this story, the government shut down at midnight Saturday morning after the House, Senate, and White House could not come to a deal on how to fund the government. The result is the title of our special report, Blamebowl 2018. The House passed a temporary measure Thursday night that would have extended funding for the government until February 16th. When that bill reached the Senate, the stage was set for a showdown on a number of issues. The two biggest? DACA and CHIP. And while I'm sure it's the name of an indie band somewhere in Ann Arbor, we're talking about government programs. For an explanation on what CHIP is, we turn to the source that has never garnered enough of our appreciation and has never let us down. Public broadcasting. PBS, please.
The Children's Health Insurance Program, or CHIP, was put into place in 1997 to provide health insurance to children and families that make too much money to qualify for Medicaid, but not enough to afford it on their own. Last year alone, nearly 9 million children were enrolled. Politically speaking, the program has always received bipartisan support, but this September, federal funding for the program ran out, and there's no agreement yet on Capitol Hill to find the approximately $14 billion a year it costs to run it. That leaves states who administer the program running out of funds and children with uncertain health insurance coverage as the end of the year approaches.
Basically, you can think of Congress deciding not to fund CHIP as a bunch of lunchtime bullies beating up their kids for their health insurance. An activity I actually could believe Paul Ryan enjoying. We'll call that side A. On side B, we have DACA, or the Dreamers, undocumented immigrants who were brought here as children by their parents. President Trump announced the end of the DACA program in September, meaning that in this coming March, about 800,000 people would be unable to defer their deportations or continue to get money for school or a loan for a house. Democrats had this to say after Trump's decision in September.
Because we're going to need them to right the ship. Congress has an ability and an obligation to act, which is why we today are calling on Speaker Ryan and Leader McConnell to immediately put the DREAM Act on the floor for a vote in the House and Senate. We're ready to pass it. I am confident that if put on the floor, it will garner overwhelming support from both sides of the aisle. But let us say this, and I think I speak for the leader as well. If a clean DREAM Act does not come to the floor in September, we're prepared to attach it to other items this fall until it passes.
So Democrats wanted to vote on the DREAM Act all the way back in September and made it pretty clear that they wouldn't do anything until this issue was handled. They wanted to vote on something else in September. What was it?
Mr. President, on September 30th, the Children's Health Insurance Program expired. It has now been 25 days that the United States Congress has put our children's health and well-being on the back burner. My colleagues and I don't think that children's health belongs on the back burner. So we've come down to the floor of the Senate today to spend the afternoon speaking up for kids. So thank you to everyone who joins me today to say that we shouldn't wait any longer to make sure that children, community health centers, and new mothers have access to the healthcare programs that they need.
CHIP! That's right. We've been hung up on two issues for 5 months. Could you imagine if you and your significant other fought over the same two things for 5 months? Wait. Anyway, why haven't we voted for it yet? I'm being told that if I would have shut up and let Elizabeth Warren talk, she would have explained that to me. Mrs. Senator, please, the floor is yours.
Republicans control Congress. It is up to them what we vote on and when we do it.
Yes, Republicans control the House and Senate. And as Senator Warren explained, that means they control what gets voted on and when. And there hasn't been a vote on either of these two issues. And because there hasn't been a vote, when the short-term spending extension came to the Senate floor yesterday, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell decided to send this tweet. Democrats could either fund CHIP, something they had been trying to do since September, or secure DACA, which they had also wanted to do since September. After they could not come to an agreement and a shutdown was imminent, McConnell had the gall to say this.
Yeah, I just want to call to the attention of my colleagues a statement of a part of the statement of a White House press secretary tonight, presumably on behalf of the administration. Simply says, we will not negotiate the status of unlawful immigrants while Democrats hold our lawful citizens hostage over their reckless demands.
We have two groups of people, sick children and undocumented immigrants, who are very vulnerable. And Mitch McConnell sticks the legislative gun to each of their heads and then says, okay, Democrats, which one do you want to kill? And remember, you're the bad person for doing this. Now, some of you may be wondering, don't the Republicans have control of both houses of Congress? That's correct. Moreover, the Republicans control the White House. So it's not as if they had to worry about making it so the president wouldn't veto any bill. And the only thing Trump knows about veto is that he was the godfather. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer knew this, and that's why he thought he made Trump a deal that he couldn't refuse.
The Majority Leader only just allowed us to vote on a continuing resolution that he knew lacked the votes long before this hour. Not just Democrats who opposed this CR. Several Republicans did as well. We have endeavored to reach an agreement with President Trump and the Republicans that would have not only spared a government shutdown, but cemented an agreement on spending caps. President Trump reached out to me this morning. In exchange for strong DACA protections, I reluctantly put the border wall on the table for discussion. Even that was not enough to entice the president to finish the deal.
He offered him the wall. Trump had a chance at his baby, at his big, beautiful wall. And he turned it down. The only thing more surprising than Trump turning down the wall is Trump turning down spanking time at Mar-a-Lago. We haven't discussed the president very much in regards to these negotiations, so it's important to know where he stands on government shutdowns. And that question, well, it depends on when you ask him, because in 2011, he had this to say to Meredith Vieira on the Today Show.
So if there were a partial shutdown of the government come Friday, that would be okay with you?
In my opinion, I hear the Democrats are going to be blamed and the Republicans are going to be blamed. I actually think the president would be blamed. If there is a shutdown, if there is a shutdown, I think it would be a tremendously negative mark on the president of the United States.
And in 2013, here's what Trump had to say to his only friends, the Fox and Friends.
Well, if you say who gets fired, it always has to be the top. I mean, problems start from the top, and they have to get solved from the top, and the president's the leader, and he's got to get everybody in a room, and he's got to lead.
The president, in all fairness, he's the leader. He's the one that has to get everybody in a room and get it done. I really think the pressure is on Obama to make a deal because he doesn't want this in his resume. They're not going to be talking about Boehner and Reid and all. They're going to be talking about President Obama and what a disaster the administration was. So he does have a lot of pressure to get this problem solved. He's got a big problem.
In 20 years and 100 years, when they write about this, they're not going to be talking about Boehner. They're not going to be talking about. They're going to be talking about the president's administration. So he's got a lot of pressure on him to get this thing solved. The right guy would get everybody into a room and would make a deal.
I honestly believe that if Trump said, "I have never worn pink bedazzled lederhosen," that this image would surface from a 1993 Halloween party. How did you even get your fat ass into that? But what is even maybe more relevant to this discussion is a tweet that Donald Trump sent in May saying that we need a good shutdown in September to fix this mess. Wonderful. Donald Trump thinks the government is a computer. If you want it to work again, you have to shut it down first. That's at least good news for the IT guy at Trump Tower who only has to show up when the president's computer is infested with incest porn. What was Trump's tune yesterday as the threat of a shutdown loomed? If you guessed the opposite of his previous position, you're damn right.
See what happens. It's up to the Democrats.
To be fair, As this is the first anniversary of Trump's presidency, we might just be entering into the second phase of Trump's business plan, shutting it down and declaring bankruptcy. The Trump White House sent out this press release that would have counted as bizarre in the before time, but exactly 1 year into Trump's presidency, a press release blaming Democrats for the shutdown and calling them obstructionist losers is, well, par for the course. Donald Trump seems to believe that now that he is in office, it's not the president's fault or the majority party's fault, but the minority party's fault, which actually makes sense because Trump always finds a way to blame all his problems on minorities. So just to keep score, the House and the Senate GOP blame Democrats, despite the Senate not being able to secure votes from Senators Graham, Flake, Lee, or Paul. Democrats blame Trump because he walked away from a bipartisan deal put together by Lindsey Graham and Senator Dickie Durbin, as well as walking away from the deal with Chuck Schumer that would have given him his ever so sweet, ever so precious, and ever so ineffective wall. President Trump blames the president for government shutdowns, but he doesn't blame himself, so he also blames the Democrats. If you ask me, I think it's time for Donald Trump to listen to the only person he ever listens to. Donald Trump. Problems start from the top, and they have to get solved from the top. And the president's the leader. He's got to get everyone in the room, and he's got to lead. I hope you all are enjoying your government shutdown. We'll be back with more news next week. Have a good evening, everyone.